Hello, I'm Ann Glass with the Institute of Gerontology in the College of Public Health at the University of Georgia. I'd like to welcome you to join us for Aging 101 for Georgia, in which we've pulled together the most important things you need to know about aging. There are lots of things you can do to help yourself age well, and we will share some ideas to help you get started. You'll hear from professionals from universities and from the Georgia Division of Aging Services, and you'll hear from the real experts, older adults themselves, who share some wisdom and experience. We'll be talking about physical health, lifelong learning, what's normal as we age, the importance of staying connected and involved, and share some thoughts about planning ahead. Please feel free to watch this video at your own pace and stop and take a break at any time. You will also find a link on our website to a free downloadable document, which is a list of some of the very best free resources available on the web. The website link is also included with your DVD. We hope you'll find this video and these links of value to you. And now, why is there a need for this video? Well, more people are living longer than ever before in history, here in Georgia, across the United States, and globally. In the United States, we've added an amazing 30 years to our life expectancy over the past century. This increase in years has been a great gift for most older adults who are finding that these years may be their best years ever. However, you can see by this graph how the older population is projected to soar in Georgia over the next 20 years. Also, we need to keep in mind that older people are perhaps the most diverse of any age group, with many different life paths. While some folks are healthy and active into their 90s, others begin having serious health problems when they're in their 50s or 60s. In fact, there's nothing magic about the number 65. People don't change dramatically overnight between 64 and 65. Aging is a gradual process. Now, let's see how to make these years the best they can be.
At what age does a person become old or feel old?
Because 60 used to be considered old. Now it's really 75 or 80 that people begin to say, oh, she's really old.
I think someone becomes old around the age of 50 because that's just naturally when the body just begins to just get up there.
It's sort of incredulous to me. I mean, when I say 90, really, it seems like an impossible sort of figure. I don't consider myself old, really.
I would say someone gets older. Myself, I would say 60.
Around 50.
Physical health. Most older adults think their health is good. This is true.
If you were to ask older adults to rate their health, the majority of them rate their health anywhere from good to excellent. Their self-perception may be relative and feel others are worse off. Half of older adults aged 65 years and older say they are in the best years of their life.
Normal aging. All 5 senses tend to decline with age. This is true.
In fact, as we age, we often begin to notice a loss in hearing, particularly at high frequencies. About 1/3 of those over age 70 and about half of those above age 85 have some hearing loss. The highest rates are among white males. Tinnitus, which is hearing noises like a humming or buzzing inside the ear, is very common. Almost everyone experiences it occasionally and briefly. As for vision, you've probably all noticed an older person who has to hold something further away to be able to read it. Perhaps you've even experienced this yourself. This is one of the normal changes that often occurs with age. It is called presbyopia, and it means a difficulty in focusing on things that are close up. The lens in the eye becomes less elastic. Older people may also need as much as 3 times more light as younger people to see well, so attention to proper lighting in the home is important. For example, using night lights in the bathroom and hallways or increasing the wattage in your lamps will be helpful. Of course, There are other conditions such as cataracts and glaucoma which are not normal with age and should be treated. What you may not know is that aging can also affect the senses of smell and taste, which can affect your appetite. As a result, you may need to add extra seasoning to your food, but don't forget to limit your salt intake. The great thing about getting older is that you don't lose all the other ages you've been. As your body ages, you can expect other gradual changes as well. Overall, the body will slow down. However, we all age differently, so what's normal for others may not be normal for you. For example, by age 80, you might lose as much as 2 inches in height due to normal changes in your posture and the compression of joints. Some older adults have found that taking a safe driving course can help in adjusting driving habits to age-related changes. You may also be able to save hundreds on your car insurance. Another thing to be aware of is you may lose your sensitivity to the temperature, and the ability to regulate your own body temperature slow down. This may put you at risk for hypothermia when you get too cold, and hyperthermia when you get too hot, which puts you at risk for heat stroke.
Do you think you have control of how fast you age?
How does gene and your environment contribute to your longevity? And that's a very popular question. And it's not an easy question to answer, and because we know so little about longevity. But because it's a very popular question, we did an analysis of all the studies on the impact of genetics on longevity. And our best guess is the impact is about 30%. That's our best guess. But because we don't know that much about it, that number could change. But for now, we could say maybe 30% of longevity could be influenced by genetics. And then the other, what's left, the 70%, could be due to environmental lifestyle type influences. There really isn't one secret, but there are many factors that influence longevity. And there's a lot of individual variability. It's important to have a good social support network. Your environmental support really add days to your life. All centenarians are fairly thin. None of them are obese. But I think what they eat and their lifestyle becomes very important. What we found was all centenarians tend to eat breakfast more regularly. So it's a combination of many things that add to, how long we live.
That again is recognizing the uniqueness of each one of us and of our genes and of the way we've lived our lives and the way we've taken care of ourselves, and all of those things go into how well we function as the years go along. Plus, the whole issue of good luck or bad luck, because here at 86, so many of my friends are dead, or they may be incapacitated in some way. I am very lucky with my genes, and I've worked hard at trying to stay fit.
So what can you do? Give up smoking.
Quitting smoking is the single best thing you can do for your health. Tobacco is still the nation's chief cause of lung cancer. Giving up tobacco use has benefits at any age, even among older adults who already have tobacco-related diseases. Health improvements from quitting smoking include lower death rates, reversed respiratory symptoms, and improved quality of life. It is never too late to quit.
Healthy eating.
What we find is that many people aren't eating enough fruits, vegetables, whole grains, or getting enough milk products. And all those can contribute to some of the health problems that we see are quite prevalent in the older people in Georgia. So what we recommend is that older people eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. Usually we recommend 7 or more a day. Now that's probably a little more than you've heard in the past, but what we're finding is that fruits and vegetables really help lower blood pressure. And of course, having a lower blood pressure helps decrease the risk for stroke. So that's very, very important. Another food that we emphasize are the whole grains, and we recommend that older people eat about 3 servings of whole grains a day. And why we recommend the whole grains is because they help lower your blood sugar, keep your blood sugar more even, and that can be very important in helping to prevent diabetes and manage it if you do have diabetes. Another food group that we recommend are the milk products. Well, we know now that as people are living longer and longer, it's more important than ever to make sure you get the calcium and the vitamin D you need. So milk products are a great source of that. We recommend 3 servings of milk products a day for older people, and we recommend skim milk usually. Some people don't really like skim milk, so go up to 1% or even 2% would be fine. Another great way to get your dairy products is from yogurt or low-fat cheese. A lot of people would prefer to get their milk products from ice cream, but we generally recommend they limit that. Another very important food group are the protein foods. That would be the lean meats, beef, pork, lean chicken, lean turkey. These provide protein that's so important for helping us maintain our muscle mass as we get older. So those are among the most important food groups. And of course, we also recommend that people drink plenty of fluids, especially water. Don't need any kind of special drink, just water is great. We also count the water that you might eat in soup or other foods. Well, a lot of people want to know, well, how many calories should I eat? And we can give you a calorie range, but one of the best ways to tell, am I eating too much or too little, is just keep your eye on the scale. So try to weigh yourself, say, once a week or so. If your weight is going up and you don't really want it to, you're probably eating too many calories. Or if you're losing weight and you didn't really want to, maybe you're not eating enough, or maybe there's a health condition you need to talk to your doctor about. But typically the range of calorie intakes for older people, depending on their activity level mainly, and if they're a man or woman, is anywhere between 1,600 calories and up to about 2,400 calories. Now if you're a small woman who's inactive, then you'd be at that lower end of the calorie range, around 1,600. And it's pretty hard to get all the nutrients that you need when you only need about 1,600 calories a day. So if you feel you're maybe at that lower end, it'd be very important to talk to your doctor about if it might be appropriate for you to take a multivitamin mineral supplement, for example, to make sure you get all the vitamins and minerals you need. We've been studying the vitamin D, calcium, and vitamin B12 status of older people in Georgia for many years. And one of the most surprising things that we found is that even though we're in the sunny South, that many older people in Georgia are still vitamin D deficient. And again, you've probably heard that vitamin D is a vitamin you can get from the sun. But we think as people age, their skin is less able to make vitamin D. It's just part of the aging process. Also, dark-skinned people, such as the African Americans that live in Georgia, have less ability to make vitamin D in their skin. And then often as people age, they start getting those little pesky little skin cancers and getting those removed. And they finally realize, I really should be using that sunscreen after all. And it turns out that sunscreen blocks the skin's ability to make vitamin D. So there's a lot of reasons then why a vitamin D deficiency might be prevalent in Georgia. And this actually has turned out to be a problem all across the country and actually all across the world. And what we're recommending now, based on the best scientific evidence we have, is that older people consume at least 1,000 international units a day. So 1,000 international units, you might think, well, I'm a milk drinker, I should be fine. Well, milk in our country is fortified only at 100 international units per cup. So go ahead and drink your milk. It's got that calcium in there you need. It's got some vitamin D, but it's real important that you also consider taking a vitamin D supplement. And this dietary supplement industry has now made vitamin supplements that contain 1,000 international units, so that's a real convenient way to get it. And also, I actually take a multivitamin that has 800 international units already, so I don't need a second supplement. Another nutrient we find that's low in Georgia is calcium. A lot of people, for a lot of different reasons, don't drink milk or eat yogurt. In fact, the average intake of milk across the United States is around 1 serving a day, and among our minority groups, it's only about half a serving a day. And to get all the calcium you need, you really need 3 servings a day. So what we recommend then is that older people, they don't enjoy drinking milk or don't eat a lot of other fortified foods, take a supplement with calcium. And there's a lot of those available. Some people look at that pill and think it's awfully big. They don't want to take that. So there's chewables on the market if that's a problem. The third nutrient that's very important in Georgia is vitamin B12. As people age, they lose their ability to digest the vitamin B12 that naturally occurs in milk products, meat, poultry, and fish. So what we recommend here, and this is for all older people across the country, is that they take an added form of vitamin B12 that's either in a dietary supplement, such as a multivitamin, that's an easy way to get it, or to read their cereal box and see if there's vitamin B12 added to their cereal or breakfast bar or something that they eat every day. And we are concerned about vitamin B12 deficiency because there's been many studies across the country, including some here in Georgia, that when people are vitamin B12 deficient, their thinking is not as clear and they have poor cognition. Also, it can lead to some blood disorders that would make people feel tired and not be able to do all the things that they enjoy. So those are easy ways to get those nutrients that we know are special concern here in Georgia.
Never eat more than you can lift.
Obesity can happen at any age, unfortunately. You're never too old to weigh too much. And unfortunately for older people, obesity can very much impair the quality of their life. It is a risk factor for diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, having high cholesterol. It's also a risk factor for joint problems. So many older people are starting to feel the hips go or the knees go. Often excess body weight is aggravating that condition. Now, it's actually not really clear exactly how we should manage weight in older people, especially as they become more and more frail. So people should work closely with their physician about this because we want to make sure that the older person has medically supervised weight loss, has the help of a dietitian, is taking calcium and vitamin D supplements to make sure as they reduce their energy intake or calorie intake that they're not missing out on the nutrients that they need. But many people can lose weight as they age. They should do this with diet and with good exercise, especially the weight-bearing exercise, so that they don't lose an excess amount of muscle mass along with that fat tissue.
Exercise.
Along with healthy eating, it's very important to be physically active. So next we're going to share with you the new physical activity guidelines. First of all older adults should avoid inactivity. Every week, try for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity activities. These would be things like walking, gardening, or cycling. Or try for 75 minutes of vigorous activity. Now for more benefits, of course, be more active for longer periods of time, and you may even think about doubling these amounts of activity. And be sure that when you do an aerobic activity that you're active for at least 10 minutes at a time to get the maximum benefits. It's also very important to do muscle strengthening activities. This keeps us strong so we can go about our daily activities and stay at home and do our own cooking and shopping and gardening. These muscle strengthening activities should be moderate to high intensity, involve all your muscle groups, and you should do these at least 2 or more days a week. Some examples would be using hand weights, and as you get stronger, you can increase the amount of weight, and also doing exercises to strengthen your lower legs. If you feel you're unable to do physical activity because of a health condition, check with your healthcare provider and still try to be as active as you can. They'll have some ideas of how you can incorporate physical activity into your daily life. Now, if you haven't been active for a while, it's very important to increase your activity gradually. For example, you may just want to add 5 or 10 minutes a week to your program. And don't forget to include balance exercises. These exercises can help prevent us from falling. Examples are Tai Chi and yoga. Next, we're going to meet a very special person, Dr. Bill Flatt. He has followed a lot of these eating and physical activity guidelines that we've been talking about. And he's going to share with you his very special journey in which he's lost a lot of weight, even as an older adult, and he's kept it off for nearly 2 decades.
Most of the time I weighed about 220 pounds. At one time I got up to as much as 239 pounds. But I felt like that I was really muscular. So even though my body mass index was about 33 or 34, I felt like I'm in good shape, that's muscle rather than fat. I had 64 pounds of body fat, or 30% of my total body weight was fat. And so I realized that was pretty high, and that I was obese rather than just having a high body mass index because of muscle. The recommendation was do not lose it rapidly. Do it very slowly, a half a pound to a pound a week. And since there are 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, if I was going to lose a pound of fat per week, I'd need to have a negative energy balance of 500 calories per day. And I could do that by decreasing my caloric intake and or increasing physical activity. Different types of exercise that I could take. And one of them was walking, and walking is an excellent exercise. In fact, they highly recommend that we walk about 10,000 steps a day, which is equivalent to about 5 miles. Jogging was one, but since I had 64 pounds of fat, I would jiggle if I jogged 3 to 5 nights a week. I would put the video in and sweat to the oldies, and the weight just came right on down. And also I started to eating more fruits and vegetables. The recommendation is at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. If you're losing weight, it ought to be 10. For goodness sakes, don't go on one of the fad diets. Don't try to lose it too fast, because the tendency will be for it to come back up. So my recommendation again would be to change your lifestyle, and as a result of that, I think people can be successful. It's really, really hard if you're obese to be able to keep that weight off. And he said if you can keep the weight off by continuing to exercise and continuing to eat fewer calories per day for a 5-year period, then the chances would be that you'll be able to keep it off for the rest of your life. I was not aware of sarcopenia, and what that is it's an age-related loss of muscle and an age-related loss of strength. And when I saw the cross-section, it looked like a ham, but it was cross-section of a thigh as a result of aging. Over a 10-year period, you could lose as much as 25% of your strength. As a result of sarcopenia, and the body weight could stay the same, but the amount of muscle mass that would decrease, and the only way that you could prevent this was by weightlifting or strength training, and aerobic exercise would not be effective in that part of it. To prevent the sarcopenia, it needs to be strength training, though. And so just bicycling or sweating to the oldies or dancing would not be sufficient. So altogether, I've lost over 50 pounds since I started back in 1989, and I feel as good as ever. and I'm actually stronger than I was back when I was 58 years old. So here's 20 years that I think is probably a good example of what a fat old man can end up doing.
Sunscreen.
Earlier, Mary Ann Johnson talked about how the use of sunscreen can block the absorption of vitamin D. While this is true, it is still important to use a sunscreen. It has been found that much of the damage to our skin that we thought was due to aging is actually caused by the sun. There are both UVA rays, which can cause skin cancer and wrinkles, and UVB rays, which can cause skin cancer and sunburn. When you see an SPF measure on a sunscreen bottle, it refers only to protection from UVB rays. Be sure to look for a sunscreen that is marked broad spectrum, meaning it provides protection against both UVA and UVB rays. It has been suggested by dermatologists that your sunscreen should contain one of these ingredients to be most effective: titanium dioxide, zinc oxide, parasol 1789, heliosol or helioplex, mexaryl.
Sleep. As important as diet and exercise, only easier.
Sleep allows our body to rest and to restore its energy level. Most people do best if they get 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Sleep patterns do change as we age. A National Sleep Foundation poll of older adults found a close relationship between the health and quality of life of older adults and their sleep quantity and quality. It is important to get help if you notice any significant changes in your sleep habits. For example, sleep apnea, which causes you to stop breathing briefly, is a serious health issue. It is often a spouse who notices it first. You should talk to your doctor about this. The great thing in this world is not so much where we are, but in what direction we are moving.
Healthy habits.
Developing healthy habits promotes aging well. Some helpful suggestions include: make a plan for what needs to change in your life. When making the plan, include all the benefits. It is important to make one small change at a time. For example, instead of watching a daytime show, take a walk around the block. Keep a journal to help track your successes and challenges. As you meet your goals, or even halfway through, celebrate and reward yourself. By developing healthy habits, you can decrease your risk of developing chronic diseases and help manage any chronic disease you might have.
I'm interrupting this video to bring you an important public service announcement to raise your awareness about strokes. I'd like to share a personal story because I think it really brings home this message. My in-laws, who lived in another state, were preparing to come visit us the next day. It just happened that my sister-in-law happened to visit them that evening, and she called me a bit later to say that her mother was experiencing numbness on the left side. But she didn't want to say anything because she didn't want to disrupt the plans for the trip. I said, no, she needs to go to the hospital right away because that is a sign of a stroke. They did indeed take her to the hospital, and she got the appropriate monitoring. It turned out it was a TIA, trans-ischemic attack, or mini-stroke, and she got on the appropriate medications, and she's doing fine to this day. She's now 89 years old. And I share this message because it really brought home to me how easily this could happen to any of us, especially if you had the symptoms for just a matter of minutes or hours. It would be human nature to want to dismiss it as nothing important. However, about a third of people who have TIAs will go on to have full-blown strokes, and if you have a stroke, time is of the essence. If you are with anybody who is exhibiting any of the signs of a stroke, it's important to get them to the hospital immediately. They may not be thinking clearly, so it's up to you. Do you know what the signs of a stroke are?
The signs of a stroke include sudden numbness or weakness of face, arm, or leg, especially on one side, sudden trouble seeing in one or both eyes, sudden confusion, trouble speaking or understanding, sudden trouble walking, dizziness, loss of balance or coordination, sudden severe headache with no known cause. A stroke is a brain attack in which blood flow and oxygen to the brain are cut off. The most common type of stroke is when an artery to the brain is blocked. 2 million brain cells die every minute during a stroke, so the speed in which you can get help and begin treatment is critical. For example, there are new clot-busting medications that may really make a difference in your recovery, depending on the type of stroke you have. But ideally, these medications must be started within 3 hours from the time of the first symptom. This Act Fast is an easy way to remember how to check if you are confronted with someone who might be having a stroke. F. The face. Ask the person to smile. Does one side of the face drop? A. Arms. Ask the person to raise both arms. Does one arm drift downwards? S. Speech. Ask the person to repeat a simple sentence. Are the words slurred? Can he or she repeat the same sentence correctly? T. Time. If the answer is yes to any of these questions, time is important. Call 911 or get to the hospital fast. Brain cells are dying. More than 6 million stroke survivors are alive today in the United States, but it is still the third leading cause of death. Better yet, keep in mind that up to 80% of strokes are preventable by making the kinds of healthy choices we've talked about in this video. Enter in case of emergency or ICE on your cell phone with the phone number of the person you want contacted in an emergency. This person will most likely be your next of kin. Be sure to tell this person so they are ready and able to confirm your date of birth, your name, and your address. If possible, it is also helpful if they can share information such as your relevant medical history, allergies, and blood type to expedite your care. By making this contact early, hopefully this person could then also meet you at the hospital if needed. Because chronic diseases and conditions increase with longevity, 80% of older adults have at least one chronic disease and half have 2 or more diseases. The most common conditions are arthritis and high blood pressure. Anytime you have any change in your health or notice any new symptoms, you should report it to your healthcare provider.
The exciting thing is that we're living longer, we're healthier, we're more active, we're involved, all of those things that are going to contribute to a healthy quality of life as we get older. And it's important not to neglect your own personal health care. Be sure that you find a doctor that understands you, that you feel comfortable with, not only your doctor but your healthcare team, and make sure that you follow through on all of the instructions and advice that you're given. A health issue that's been identified in Georgia is the failure of a lot of older people to have flu shots. I cannot impress upon you the importance of having a flu shot every year. You get a cold, you don't feel well, and it can very quickly turn into something very serious. The minority population in our state is not getting flu shots. We're just not doing it well enough. Every year you should have a flu shot. You should have the pneumonia vaccine. It's a one-time shot, but some doctors will recommend that you have it as soon as 5 years. Others may say 10 to 15 years, but you should have a pneumonia shot on the recommendation of your healthcare provider. A new vaccine that has been introduced this last year is the shingles vaccine. And for any of you who have friends or know of people who have shingles, it's very painful. It's not anything that any of us want, and it may be recommended by your healthcare provider that you have this also. Overall, I think it's important that you have foot care if you've identified corns, calluses, bunions, if you notice that when you put your toe into the warm water or if you just step one foot in front of the other, you notice that you're not feeling things. It could be an early sign of a neuropathy, and a neuropathy is just some nerve weakness in your feet, and this could be a problem. You could fall more easily, you could suffer other injuries and not be aware of it. So I think that you should see a podiatrist on a regular basis if you notice anything wrong with your feet. Your skin care is very important. A lot of older people develop marks on their face and on their arms and legs, and if you don't go to the dermatologist, you're not going to be able to identify a possible cancer.
Older people lose interest in and the capacity for sexual relations.
I think that's probably true. Because it seems like probably lose desire and it would be less appealing.
No. I hope not. No, I don't think so.
No. False. I don't lose interest in it. I find my wife still just as attractive as she always was, and therefore I go at it.
False. I think you could have an active sex life throughout your whole entire life, and just depends on your physical condition and how you generally feel if you have a loving mate. So I would say false.
The truth is, more than 70% of those 65 and older continue to be sexually active. Older adults who are not sexually active often do not have a partner, are on medications that inhibit their sexual drive or abilities, or they may have significant health problems. As older adults live longer and may have new partners as they age, it is important to recognize that there is a need to use protection in order to avoid sexually transmitted diseases.
Medications.
While older adults account for between 12 and 13% of our population, they take a third of the prescribed medications and about 40% of over-the-counter medications. In fact, 80% of older people take at least one prescription medication, and on average, older adults are taking more than 4 prescriptions at a time, plus 2 over-the-counter medications. Some older people take as many as 10 or more medications regularly. So medications are a big issue for older people, especially because there are so many concerns about older adults and their medications. One of the important things to take home from this video is the idea that for every medication you take, you really need to weigh carefully the risk versus the benefit. Some of the issues with medications in older adults include the body changes that come with aging that may affect how the body processes the medication. Sometimes people have multiple medical conditions and multiple physicians, and they may be taking lots of different medications. This is called polypharmacy, and if there's nobody who is monitoring all of the medications that you're taking, it can really cause problems. The more medications you take, the more likely you are to have interactions between the medications and end up with more problems. Some of the medication-related problems can include things like falls, restlessness, confusion, sleep disorders, weight loss, weakness, incontinence, and dizziness. And you can see that if you go to your doctor and tell them you're having some of these issues, they may not link it back to the medication you're taking. Instead, they may give you another medication to treat whatever problem you've come to talk to them about. Therefore, we really encourage you to keep a list of your medications, and you'll find a link to a couple of sample medication lists that you can use. If you keep this list with you and keep it up to date and take it with you when you go to the doctor or to the hospital, this will be a big help. There are also some medications that are actually listed as ones that should be avoided by those over 65. These have been identified by geropharmacological experts over the last several years, and you'll find a link for that as well on our resource list. If you're taking medications that are on this list, you may want to talk to your physician about them, because there may be some new medications that may be better alternatives for you.
Memory loss. The majority of older people have Alzheimer's disease. This is false.
If you have ever experienced a so-called senior moment, you are not alone. These forgetful moments happen to all of us and happen at all ages. When you're younger, you don't think much about it, but when you're older, you'll notice it more. It happens particularly when one is under stress or trying to do too many things.
I can tell you that at 10 o'clock in the morning, my memory is much better than it is at 10 o'clock at night. So the whole issues of distraction, fatigue, physical discomfort, all of those things can inhibit memory and can affect the way we function.
Mild forgetfulness is not the same as Alzheimer's. Normal age-related memory loss is much milder than most people think. We all forget where we put things, forget names, and occasionally search for the right word. With normal memory loss, you will be able to backtrack your steps and usually recall what you forgot. Normal memory loss will not affect the ability to recall and recognize people and events from the past. There is a lot of variation among older adults. The chance of developing dementia increases with age, with Alzheimer's disease being the most common type of dementia. However, dementia is not a natural process of aging, and it does not affect everyone. One way to tell the difference is when people are unable to retrace their steps or remember what they were doing prior to the event of misplacing or losing something. As the impairment increases, the memory problems affect the person's ability to take care of things like paying bills, keeping up the checkbook, or cooking. The person may frequently get lost or not recognize people they see every day. If you suspect someone may have a dementia, it is recommended that someone see a neurologist who may prescribe medications that may help slow the progression of the disease.
Lifelong learning. It is difficult for older adults to learn new things. This is false.
I decided to go back to school and get a master's degree in counseling and gerontology expertise. Well, I got back to school and found that I really loved it and I wanted to know much, much more. So I wound up getting a doctorate in counseling and then went into private practice. I was 64 when I got my PhD.
You learn every day and you have to work at it. You can't sit back and bask in the sun of former years. You have to go ahead.
The ability to learn continues throughout life, although we may learn in different ways as we age. Older people often require more time and effort to absorb new information. We may need to read instructions more carefully to be able to organize and understand new information. As we get older, we tend to avoid learning things that are not meaningful or rewarding to us. One of the differences in learning as you age is the speed or time it takes to absorb and process information. If you are not intentional about remembering new information, like names and numbers, the ability to recall those things will be slower. New research shows this decline may start as early as age 20. It is important to realize that any of these things can negatively affect your mental functioning, such as being physically or mentally inactive, your health and medications, depression, and simply being overstressed or tired. Brain plasticity is the ability of the brain to change physically in response to new learning. The good news is that this brain plasticity can happen at any age. New neural pathways and connections can continue to grow if you continue to challenge yourself. The more you use your brain, the more cells will be produced. For example, here's a puzzle for you. What letters are missing from this alphabet? Once you've figured out the letters, can you rearrange them to make a word? Here are some memory boosters. When you want to be sure to remember something like a person's name, try these. Pay attention. Pay close attention to the name when you're introduced. Repeat. Repeat the name. Make an association. Make a visual association or connection with the name in your mind, and the wilder, the better. Practice. Challenge yourself to practice remembering things. To improve your memory or to stay mentally active, there are many things you can do. Read. Do puzzles. Re-enroll in school. Play cards. Start a new hobby.
Staying connected with others.
Connect with others. Make time to talk and listen. Helping others is the best way to take your mind off your own problems. There are many volunteer opportunities. You are needed. Just don't sit at home alone. As you'll hear from the following individuals, connecting with others, staying involved with family and friends, volunteering, working, and even using the internet will keep you engaged and involved. Staying connected and involved with others has been proven to help improve health and quality of life.
Working and volunteering.
As a matter of fact, I am a social work consultant in hospice, and I meet with a group of social workers, and that keeps me alive in the profession. And at the same time, really, it helps. Older workers have always been a consideration, particularly now. I think the older worker is absolutely essential because of the need for experienced workers. I'm a founding member of the Athens Community Council on Aging. I'm a member of the Georgia Council on Aging. I'm a member of Friends of Advantage, and I've recently been selected as the chairman of the Ethics Committee of the state NASW chapter. There's no question, really, that I enjoy volunteering. But the fact of the matter is, I think that the volunteer, and particularly the older volunteer, is a very important part of the way things work, really. I think that society really benefits from volunteering. That's one way you can be part of what's happening. And the only way you can be part is that you've got to get in. You've got to get in the trenches.
My name is Bill Boswell. I'm 72 years old. I'm a full-time pharmacist at a local store. I work the night shift, which I enjoy. It's 7 days on, 7 days off.
I like to watch the baby because they grow so beautifully. I like to feed him. I just enjoy.
Yeah, for the last 2.5 years, I have been teaching every Friday at a senior center. By the way, my motto with the seniors when they come to my class is, no senior left behind.
There are a lot of people who are surprised that I'm still working at this age, or who say, what? She's 86 years old and she's still working. Yes, that's true. Work structures your life. Most of us have a structure from the time we're 3 or 4 years old, and we have to get up and go somewhere and do something for most of the day. And so it's a major life change when you give that structure up, and finding ways to fill that in a meaningful way and create structure that works for you is hard. So I suppose that I was going with the structure and the fact that it was meaningful.
Older people don't understand how to use the internet. This is false.
My father-in-law is 97 right now. He's still driving. He is very involved in computers. He discovered computers when he was 75. He felt left out of the conversation when we go and visit them in Massachusetts, and we talk computers with my brother-in-law. So at 75, he had been retired for 10 years, and he wanted a computer and went and got one. And within 3 or 4 months, he was writing notes to people that did programs and saying, you made a mistake on this program. It's not working the way it should work. And they answered back. And he has been computer ever since. And at least once or twice a month, he will go to the computer store to see what's the latest.
One of the things really that I found quite intriguing really was when I first got started with a computer. And now I think that the computer is one of my major avenues of communication.
The Internet is a wonderful way to access information and find resources. If you're looking for health-related information, be sure you use reputable sites, such as those in our resource list. It also provides a way to stay in touch with family and friends. You can find socialization through chat rooms. However, a word of caution. Be aware of whom you are communicating with, and do not give out personal information.
Fight ageism. Ageism? What is it?
Unfair judging of older adults simply because of their advanced age.
You shouldn't be doing that at your age.
The elderly in our society.
She's 90 years young.
Why are you still working?
She looks good for her age.
The United States is very much a youth-oriented society, and there are a lot of so-called anti-aging products being marketed, which are supposed to help make you look younger. This value in our society leads to ageism among all ages.
I saw an ad the other day for a magazine called Anti-Aging Magazine. I thought, that is the ultimate, really.
Resent our society saying that we have to stop doing something when we get a certain age, or it doesn't look right to do it. You know, if I wanted to do it when I was 40, you know, if I want to do it at 70, I'll still do it. You know, I don't really, not too concerned about how it looks to other people.
And there are people who are still functioning at a high level, well into their 80s and 90s, and that gets a certain amount of publicity, and I think that helps dispel the myth that age is all downhill. But certainly our whole culture does devalue old age in many, many ways.
Age discrimination, I'm also a volunteer for AARP, and we see that a lot, the age discrimination. Now, the studies have shown that the older people are better workers than the younger people.
Unlike other isms based on race or gender, aging is universal. We will all grow old if we live long enough. Wrinkles should merely indicate where the smiles have been.
Planning ahead.
It is important to plan ahead for your future. This includes financial planning and may involve talking to a lawyer as well. In preparing for the future, consider the possibility of becoming unable to care for yourself or your loved one. It is essential to designate someone as your power of attorney, or someone who can make decisions on your behalf, particularly for healthcare decisions. Be sure to let this person or persons know what your wishes are. Some examples would be preferences for living arrangements, long-term and end-of-life care, or even funeral arrangements. Think about what you want now and let your loved ones know.
I'm 67 years old right now, and I am planning already. My wife and I are planning for old age. Being a caregiver opens your eyes to what's going to happen, and it doesn't catch you by surprise. You have time for planning these things. But one of the problems that they're having right now, at 97 and 91, is that it's very difficult for them to get in the bathtub. They have 2 bathrooms in the house, but no shower. They don't have a shower. They need to get rid of the bathtub and put a shower. And it is very dangerous, in my opinion, for older people, the bathroom, getting in and out of the shower. And we have to plan. We have to probably rip one of the bathrooms out and put a shower so they can get in and out easier. And that takes a lot of preparation, and it will be a lot of discomfort when this is going on. It should have been done 10 years ago. Look at your finances. You're going to need money. Sit down, and that may be painful for some people, but you have to sit down and say, where do I want to be 5, 10 years from now? Get help from somebody, and look where you want to be 5 or 10 years, what you want to be able to do. That may, you may have to face reality that you cannot retire at retirement age. You have to continue working full-time, part-time, but at least you are ready for it, and it wouldn't catch you by surprise.
My children have a son and a daughter, and they both live 1,000 miles away, and they're never going to move down here. So I'm going to, probably in a few months, move up to Connecticut to a multi-level retirement community. And the other motivation for moving now is that I'm still functioning pretty well, and I realized if I ultimately needed to make a move, I wanted to do it while I could still make the decisions. I could decide where I wanted to go and how it all played out. So.
Taking care of you is the best thing you can do for everyone around you.
Home modifications.
Most older people want to stay in their homes. Here are some ways to modify your home ahead of time to ensure you can continue to live comfortably if there are health changes in the future. Examples include better lighting. Remember, you'll need 3 times more light. Grab bars in your tub or shower and next to your toilet. Lever handles for faucets and doors. Very helpful for arthritic hands. Railings next to all steps, both inside and outside. Make sure they are on both sides of the steps. Make sure all floor surfaces are even, and if they aren't, mark them, especially on stairs. If possible, have at least one step-free entry to your home. Have a bathroom, and preferably the bedroom on the main floor. Widen doorways to have 36 inches of clearance. Extremely helpful if you need a walker or wheelchair.
Housing options.
For some, it may come to the point when a move is a good idea. There are several options. They include independent living, which may include such services as housekeeping and transportation. Assisted living facilities, which are private pay facilities where you will receive some meals and some help with your activities of daily living as you need it. Nursing homes, sometimes called nursing facilities, are for those who are more dependent in their needs for help with personal care. A continuing care retirement community contains all 3 of these options on one campus. A new option is elder intentional communities, in which elders come together intentionally to form their own community to grow old together. In this option, the community is run by the older adults themselves.
What % of older people live in a nursing home?
I probably would say around 40%.
You may be surprised to learn that less than 5% of those over 65 are currently in nursing homes.
What? I did not know that. Seriously, I did not know that.
It does increase with age, and in fact, when you get over 85 and over 95 in particular, it could be as much as half of those individuals. but it's important to realize that twice as many of the population who could also be in nursing homes because of their dependencies and activities of daily living are actually still in the community, and their families and friends are helping take care of them. When we bring up the issue of long-term care, which is not only nursing homes but care provided at the home through personal care services, a real important point to make is the difference between Medicare and Medicaid in relation to long-term care. Medicare is the health insurance plan that covers almost all of those over 65, as well as some younger people with disabilities. Medicare is a federal program. The important thing to understand is the fact that Medicare does not cover the majority of nursing home or long-term care that most people need, which is the basic kind of help with those activities of daily living. Medicare will cover you if you need what is called skilled nursing care, either in a skilled nursing facility or at home, where you can get home health care if you have a designated skilled need. However, it does not cover the kind of care where you're in the nursing home and you just need that long-term assistance with your everyday activities. And for that kind of care, you're going to have to pay out of your pocket, whether in the nursing facility or hiring an aide to come into the home to help, and that can mount up pretty quickly. So what happens is many people end up spending down and then they become eligible for Medicaid. Medicaid is a federal-state program, so it varies from state to state, but it is linked to your income. It's not an insurance plan, but we're fortunate to have Medicaid because it is actually the primary payer for 75% of people in nursing homes in the state of Georgia right now. That's actually one of the highest across the country, as nationally it's about 2/3. Our residents over the age of 65 can also get their care through home and community-based services. There is a movement nationwide toward helping people get that care at home as opposed as having to go into a nursing home. So if you need this kind of care, you might want to look into that in your area. Something else you might want to consider, particularly if you're in the middle income range, is long-term care insurance. You should look over the policy options very carefully, but it can help if you're faced with long-term care expenses.
Caregiving.
There are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who currently are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. Caregiving for someone with physical disabilities or dementia is extremely difficult and can be overwhelming. Many older adults care for their spouse, children, and even grandchildren. Those who are caregivers are the unsung heroes. As you'll hear from Nancy Croft, it is vitally important for caregivers to also receive care and support for themselves.
80% of all long-term care is provided by informal care providers, those people who are family, close friends, and neighbors. Quite the opposite of a common myth of aging, families do not abandon older family members. In fact, they go to extraordinary lengths to provide resources and support. We know that the impact of caregiving has both positive and challenging components. There are rewards, such as having a close relationship with an older person and appreciating the resilience that older adults demonstrate, even when they are very frail. However, caregiving also has many challenges. The physical demands include helping with an older adult's activities of daily living, such as bathing and dressing, or instrumental activities of daily living, such as shopping, preparing meals, in addition to running errands, paying bills, or simply worrying about someone's well-being. Caregivers may suffer from fatigue, lack of sleep, and musculoskeletal problems. In addition, caregivers may also experience mental health problems. Overall, care provision can impact caregivers' functioning in a variety of ways. It is important to remember that some caregivers provide assistance for a number of years, as in the case of dementia, where an older adult may live for years with the diagnosis and related cognitive, social, and physical changes. However, older adults are not just care recipients. Significant numbers of older adults hold caregiving roles in later life and provide assistance to younger generations. One type is where a parent continues in a caregiving role well past the expected time frame. For example, where a parent continues to care for an adult son or daughter with a lifelong disability such as mental retardation. A second example is where a parent resumes caregiving because of an adult's onset condition such as HIV, AIDS, or schizophrenia. Another caregiving role that I want to discuss is where a grandparent becomes the primary caregiver for one or more grandchildren. These skip generation families increased significantly in the mid-1990s due to the increased addiction and incarceration rates of women of childbearing years. The 2000 census was the first time that these families were counted, and we estimate that about 10% of all grandparents will have primary responsibility to raise a grandchild for 6 months or more at some point in their life. The South has a higher percentage of grandparent caregivers. Here in Georgia, 2.4% of the 60-plus population is raising a grandchild as compared to 1.6% for the nation. So, the demographics of an aging population have many consequences for families. A critical one is care provision, as this role has numerous consequences for the caregiver and other family members. However, it is also important to note that substantial numbers of older adults provide assistance and support to younger family members. As the number of older adults increases in coming decades, these issues will challenge families and need to be considered in providing health and mental health services in gerontology.
And here's a little reminder. Caregiving is challenging and caregivers can feel isolated. Support your local caregiver. If you have friends or family members who are caregivers, be sure to let them know you are thinking of them by dropping them a note or calling to see how they are doing. Better yet, offer to come over and sit with the person receiving care to provide the caregiver with a little break to take a rest or a walk around the block. Bringing a meal or picking up groceries can be a big help as well.
They moved to Atlanta some years, about 9 years ago, to be closer to us. And we didn't realize we were going to be caregivers at the time. Now, right now, my father-in-law is 97, my mother-in-law is 91. And over the years, for the last about 9-10 years, we have been caregivers more and more. We got into the role slowly, so we didn't really realize that we were the caregivers. We are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are a lot of challenges to being a caregiver. Maybe not by order of importance, but number one is money. It takes money to be able to do a good job, and that is a problem, and it could be a problem for people that don't have the resources. Number two, the time constraint. You are always on call. So we go on vacation someplace, my wife has the cellular telephone on at all times to make sure that we can get a call and do something. So the time is a problem also, and those are the major problems really. The time involved, also the physical capabilities of my wife if she goes to help. She is a small woman, and it is very difficult if she has to go and help somebody get up or sit down, or that's difficult on her. So have to be aware of the capabilities. Sometimes she thinks she can do it, and then the next day she has pains all over.
Being respectful to that person, allowing them to still make decisions, because she says on a regular basis, do you all forget that I am the mother? And that's a message, and it's pretty profound. It's saying, I need for you to still see me as a grown-up I need for you to see me as the mother. I need for you to see me as an authority figure. I need for you to see me as someone who still has wisdom and can give advice. And I want you to see me as your mother. My mother is receiving things differently when we negotiated with her, rather than to give her demands and tell her that she has to do things a certain way. So I talked to her and I said, we talked about the car, and she said, I'm not putting my car down. I am going to drive my car until I can't put one leg in the car. And so I didn't argue with her, and I said, okay, let's negotiate this. I will not say anything to you about your car, and I will talk to my sisters about not saying anything to you about your car. But I want you to promise me that when you get to the point where you know it's time to put the keys on the table, that's what you will do. She said, I won't do that. I'll agree to do that, but I won't put my keys on the table because I know I can drive and I can do. Okay, we're not going to argue about it. You tell me when you're ready to put the keys on the table. She had the next week she had a little bump up with the car, and she called me up and she said the keys are on the table. And I think because she was able to say the keys are on the table, it was better for her than for us to insist that she put the keys on the table.
See, Dad just voluntarily gave up his driver's license at, I think it was 85, a cute story. He gave up his driver's license and told folks that, he had accepted the fact that he was not going to drive anymore. He didn't renew them on his 85th birthday, and so he just gave them up. A week later, they caught him out at the mall on the tractor. You don't have to have a driver's license to take a tractor.
The Aging Network.
We have several programs that are administered all through the State Unit on Aging, and I'll share some of those with you. It's interesting, too, that primarily we have three main categories of funding to administer our programs in Georgia. Main source of funding comes through the Administration on Aging. Through the Older Americans Act, it was passed in the mid-60s. We also receive funding from the Community Care Services Program, and it comes from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And then last but not least, we receive state funds appropriated by the Georgia General Assembly. We administer the programs from the Division of Aging Services through contracts with our local area agencies on aging. And in Georgia, there are 12 area agencies on aging. Each of these 12 area agencies on aging may cover as many as 15 to 17 counties. When you call the area agency on aging, there is a service that's called Gateway. And each one of the Gateway screeners have been trained. They're professionals who know how to help you, your family, or others try to assess what would be the best services for the senior or the person you're calling for or yourself to receive in your home and in your community.
Don't get your knickers in a knot. Nothing is solved and it just makes you walk funny.
Most typical services that seniors like are the homemaker services, and you might not be familiar with the terminology for a personal support service worker or a homemaker services worker, but it's usually someone who will come into your home at agreed upon time. They'll come in and they would help if you need a bath, getting dressed, grooming, shaving, fixing your hair. Also, they would do light housekeeping like changing the bed linens, making up your bed. If you need assistance with grocery shopping, they might pick up groceries and prepare a light lunch. Also, the emergency response system called ERS is very popular in Georgia, especially for folks who live in rural areas. Our ERS systems are set up so that the phone actually calls a neighbor, a family member, the sheriff, whoever you have on your list that you want called to come help you if you have fallen or you're sick or you need help and it's an emergency. Also, a very popular program is the Senior Center. Most counties have at least one or more senior centers, and they vary around the state, but they tailor the activities to what the older adults in their communities tell them that they want most. Often you will see that there's a lot of exercise programs available. In some areas of the state, I've seen square dancing, very active square dancing, line dancing, ballroom dancing. But in other areas, I've seen Tai Chi, yoga, you name it. There's so many varied activities, including computer labs, educational training and sessions, and also a hot, delicious meal, which is nice that someone else has already prepared for you. So if you or your family or a friend that you know of is interested in attending a local senior center, to find out where to locate one, you would also call the local area agency on aging. Not many people know that there is available a job training program for older adults. And this may surprise you, but it's available to those of us 50 years of age and older. So if you're low income, you're looking to find employment, and you want new job training or to learn new skills, we would do the assessment, set you up with it's actually different businesses who have agreed to be a host agency, and they would provide the training for you. But I want to spend just a few minutes talking with you about the Adult Protective Services Program. The purpose of the program is if you feel that you have been, or if you know of someone that you feel has been abused, neglected, or exploited, you would call our number. The number is provided on the screen for you. We have counselors who will talk with you and gather the information about the alleged abuse, neglect, or exploitation. This program, unlike many of our other ones, is available for any adult age 18 or older. So if you feel that someone has been physically abused, neglected, or financially exploited, there is help for them. When you call and provide the information, it can be an anonymous call, or you may provide your name and contact information. But what we would do is go to the home and check with that person to see what is going on in their lives. The Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Ombudsman is a Swedish word which means citizen advocate. If you find yourself in need of an advocate for someone who lives in a nursing home or a personal care home, in Georgia they're oftentimes also called assisted living facilities or group homes, I would encourage you to call the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. The number is available on the screen. And when you call the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program, they will connect you with an ombudsman in your local community that knows all the licensed and, unfortunately, sometimes unlicensed facility in your community. You can talk with them about your concerns of the resident of the facilities or what's going on, and then they will make a visit to the facility. You may make an anonymous call. If you or someone you know has been very confused about all of the prescription drug plan options that are available in Georgia, I feel your pain. 1 year alone, we had 82 options in Georgia for different pharmaceutical drug plans through Medicare Part D. If you or someone you know would like assistance in figuring out the best drug plan for you to enroll in, and usually the enrollment is during the fall of each year, I encourage you to call the Georgia Cares program. The toll-free number is listed on the screen, but as always, you can contact your local area agency on aging.
Think as little as possible about yourself. Think as much as possible about other people. Dwell on things that are interesting.
You might be considering volunteerism, and I hope that if you are, you would consider volunteering within the Aging Network. We would love to have you call the local area agency on aging and just inquire as to what volunteer opportunities are available. You know, the quickest and the easiest volunteer activity that a lot of people enjoy and brings pleasure to them in their lives is helping to volunteer through the Home Delivered Meals program. You would accept responsibility for a certain route. It might could even be in your neighborhood. You would deliver a hot meal every day to an older adult in your community. We also have volunteer activities through the Georgia Cares program and through the Long-Term Care Ombudsman program.
Adjusting to change.
As the saying goes, change is here to stay. As one ages, the changes that occur increase, and the need to manage the stress can be a challenge. You will hear from many individuals who will share their wisdom and advice on aging well.
It's less important what happens to you than it is how you respond to it. And that's what I think we have to keep in mind. One of the things I've noticed about people who age well is that they are people who adjust to changes in their lives.
Transitions at any time in life are hard. And the transition into old age is a difficult one. And how you handle it depends a lot on how you handled the other transitions, you know. But thinking positive, what can I learn from this? How can I handle this? Is crucial.
A lot of life and progressing into old age is about adapting to change and just deciding that, you know, I can do this.
Positive attitude.
Research has shown that having an optimistic personality has a positive effect on an individual's health and well-being. Personality does influence the quality of life by influencing how people approach and react to critical life situations. Remember, be optimistic. Take things in stride and do not worry about things you cannot change. You cannot prevent the birds of sorrow from flying over your head, but you can prevent them from building nests in your hair.
The attitude of the older people, based on my experience with the in-laws, and it varies. It varies depending on the individual. You know, some people are very negative and they see everything as a negative. In the senior center, I see a lot of people that should be complaining a lot, but they don't. They go in with a walker and they do line dancing using a walker. And so the attitude is more of a personality thing. And I think the people that have a bad attitude as they age had a bad attitude when they were young. And those are the people that always complain about the teacher, and they always complain. So it's a matter of, you know, the outlook in life.
Pain and loss.
There's no question that there are losses that come with aging. And making your peace with those losses, especially not being people who played tennis all their lives or golf or whatever, coming to terms with physical limitations that do go with aging for most people. It's not easy, but it can be done.
You focus on your pain, then you get worse. It's pain. What are you going to do?
Coming to terms with this life transition and recognizing that that often the other side of loss is opportunity.
Spirituality.
Religion is important for many elders. In fact, 2/3 of older adults say religion is very important, and 1/3 feel it has become even more important as they have gotten older. Some believe that prayer can help, and there is actually some research that supports this belief. Even so, there is no escaping the fact that pain is part of living, and bad things do happen to good people.
One of the things I think that people don't recognize is the importance of faith in their lives, and deciding exactly how that's going to play off all that goes on in your life. I find it just real helpful, you know, to go to God in prayer and just talk with Him about the issues and concerns that I have in my life. The whole purpose for having religion and faith in God and worshiping and this kind of thing is to build a storehouse of confidence that says to you that God, number one, is going to take care of me. If I'm not here to take care of the ones I love, then He will provide for those people.
Some may find inspiration through their spirituality in their later years, and their focus may shift from the external world to the inner one. Here are some thoughts that may help you feel more peaceful. Forgive. Remember that carrying around anger toward yourself or others hurts you the most. Try to forgive and let this anger go. Gratitude. Be grateful for your blessings.
I think we have to acknowledge that life is full of blessings. And I think we have to pay attention to what those blessings are. I always stop and take a breath when I start to get into thinking about all the things that's not. I start to whisper a prayer and ask for discernment to show me the things that are.
He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Silence. Sometimes just slowing down and taking the time to be still can help. Sit quietly and try to clear and calm your mind. Tell yourself you have permission not to worry about anything during this time. Live in the moment. Slow down and pay attention to this moment.
The challenge is to focus on the day, the moment, do the best we can, and make every day as rich as it can be, and behave in a way that we feel good about, ourselves. Do what works for us and allow ourselves to do that.
Don't be afraid to get wet. You can't just merely put your toe in the water. You've got to get going on this. And if you're going to be, and the other thing is, you got to be part of life.
Go with the flow. Go with the process without focusing on the outcome.
Try not to worry so much about what might happen. Ironically, much of what we worry about never even occurs. If your eyes are blinded with your worries, you cannot see the beauty of the sunset. And finally, keep your sense of humor and laugh. A sense of humor can help even in the toughest situations. As the old saying goes, laughter is the best medicine.
Thank you for joining us for Aging 101 for Georgia. We hope you've learned at least one new thing today. Better yet, we hope that you'll decide on one or more ideas from the program that you would like to incorporate in your own life. Perhaps making a point to eat more fruits and vegetables, exercising, volunteering, or signing up for a class. Being a gerontologist means I study aging, and many of us learn as the years go by that studying aging is often easier than doing it. Aging does have its challenges, and the oldest old among us are truly survivors to be admired. But it's up to each of us to take charge of our lives and live life to the fullest. Become the best you that you can be, whatever your situation. We hope this information will help you reach that goal.
You can be more of yourself as an older person than you can as a younger person.